I'm about to drop survival games that stalk your brain cells like prey. An island where cannibals upgrade when you do. A wasteland where your best friend might blow up your base for laughs. A jungle that chews on your sanity. And a Viking afterlife that resets the moment you think you're safe. Hang tight. I'm about to count down 6 survival worlds so addictive you'll forget the real one exists. Number 1, Valheim. One more seed, one more saga. You wake beneath a looming world tree, barefoot, armed with little more than ragged pants and a stone axe. Within minutes, you're chasing boars through sun-dappled meadows. Within hours, you're blueprinting a great hall whose roof beams would impress real-world carpenters. That first rise from nothing is addictive. But Valheim's genius is how it keeps that feeling fresh every time you roll a new world. Each seed rearranges the continents, shifting mountains closer to coastlines, burying crypts in unexpected swamps, hiding silver veins under snowfields you never noticed before. The map looks familiar, yet the landmarks are strangers, forcing new scouting routes and reshaping every build plan you thought you'd perfected.
Number 2. Don't Starve Together. Endless experiments in a gothic wilderness.
You materialize under a snaggletooth moon, with nothing but a few sticks, a pocket full of dread, and a quiet promise that the world will rearrange itself every time you think you have it figured out. The hand-drawn landscape looks familiar at first. Meadows stitched to forests, a cranky herd of beefalo grazing on the horizon. But every new save scrambles those pieces into a fresh jigsaw. Pig villages that once offered safety now spawn beside swamp tentacles. Vital gears for your first icebox hide in a marble biome 2 continents away. Even before day 1 ends, the map has forced you to invent new scouting routes, rethink your camp layout, and weigh whether winter supplies or summer fireproofing should take priority. Seasons turn this improvisation into a perpetual loop. Autumn lulls you with mellow breezes, then spits you into winter darkness where each minute away from a roaring fire chips off sanity. Spring drowns your farms in frog rain. Summer bakes your base until storage chests spontaneously combust. No stretch of weather feels routine, so you're constantly cycling between exploration, crisis management, and rebuilding. By the time you survive all 4 seasons, the itch to start over, just to test a riskier spawn or a harsher world preset, becomes hard to ignore. Replayability deepens when you shuffle the character deck. Wilson's beard turns him into a walking winter coat. Wendy's ghostly twin fights off hounds while you pick flowers, and Deck 78 evolves from fragile automaton to lightning-charged powerhouse if you feed it enough gears. Each survivor warps basic priorities. Worley's gourmet hunger meter forces a roaming cooking operation, while Wormwood can't heal from food, but sprouts living fences wherever he plants seeds. Pair any 2 together and the camp dynamic flips yet again, meaning a fresh multiplayer session feels like testing a brand new rule set, even on the same map seed. Clay's live service cadence keeps that novelty rolling. Character refreshes add skill trees that shift long-settled metas, new biomes wedge themselves onto world edges, and holiday events rewrite enemy behavior with limited-time loot. Whatever the devs don't tinker with, the Steam Workshop does. One-click mods let you stretch day length, crank hound attacks, reskin the entire cast as anime heroes, or drop you onto Moonscape overhaul maps that play like a different game. The modding scene is so varied that simply browsing the top pages sparks ideas for yet another playthrough. Because worlds are persistent, but always temporary. Your camp can be razed by a Deerclops tantrum or overrun by spider queens. The game encourages a fearless attitude toward failure. You lose a 15-hour fortress, laugh, or scream, and immediately dream up a hardened version 2. Each setback becomes a story you'll tell friends in voice chat, and every victory nudges you to crank the difficulty slider a little higher next time. All of these systems, procedural terrain, merciless seasons, wildly asymmetrical survivors, never-ending updates, and a bottomless mod library, interlock to form a survival playground that refuses to grow stale. Don't Starve Together isn't just a game you revisit. It's a living laboratory where every reset is a brand new experiment, and every experiment begs the question, How many ways can you dance on the edge of starvation before the shadows finally win?
Number 3. Green Hell. Survival that eats at your sanity.
I need you here, Jake, please.
The instant your small plane crumples into the Amazon canopy, Green Hell begins a slow, methodical assault on every survival instinct you thought you'd honed in. Nothing about this jungle stays still. Paths you cleared yesterday vanish under fresh undergrowth, riverbanks shift with flash floods. Tribal patrols roam on their own schedules, listening for the crunch of your boots. Even the weather joins the hunt. Monsoon clouds roll in without warning, soaking your campfire and stranding you miles from shelter while leeches feast on your ankles. Each playthrough rearranges these environmental threats. Sometimes the jaguars stalk early, sometimes a rash of poisonous mushrooms blooms right where you need to build a water collector. So preparation never feels routine. Replayability flourishes in the ruthless realism woven through every system. A careless machete swing leaves a gash that festers unless you wrap it in the correct leaf bandage. Skip a meal, and your macronutrient wheel unbalances, dragging your stamina into the gutter. Wake up during a thunderstorm with an untreated fever, and hallucinations blur the forest, tricking you into chasing voices deeper into danger. Because every ailment demands a different response. Bone needles for parasites, charred animal fat for calories, lily dressing for infections. No run follows the same medical script. You adapt by exploring farther, logging edible plants in a journal, and building bases in places you once dismissed as too risky.
Co-op adds an entirely new survival choreography. Partnering up lets one player track down antivenom while another crafts armor from armadillo plates. But it also multiplies the mistakes. Overcook the caiman meat and 2 hunger meters plummet instead of 1. Fall from a cliff while carrying the shared pot and everyone's hydration plan evaporates. Each new teammate is both asset and wildcard, guaranteeing that a playthrough with one group of friends won't resemble the next. The developers keep the jungle breathing with frequent updates and the sprawling Spirits of Amazonia expansion, which stitches a multi-part narrative onto the sandbox without forcing linearity. You can chase down tribal legends that recontextualize the flora you've been using for hours. Or you can ignore the lore entirely and tackle the new region purely as unexplored territory full of unfamiliar predators. Difficulty presets and custom settings push replay value even further. Hardcore mode erases respawn options, while permadeath turns every leech into a potential campaign-ending threat. Green Hell's greatest trick is how it makes knowledge feel temporary. Just when you think you've cataloged every cure, an unseasonal flood sweeps caimans into your fishing spot. Or a sanity spiral convinces you the friendly voice on the radio is plotting your demise. You finish a session exhausted, yet weirdly invigorated, itching to start over with a riskier base location or a stricter resource rule set. The jungle isn't content to kill you once. It wants to rewrite the entire lesson each time you return, ensuring that survival, and the stories it spawns, never grow old.
Number 4. Rust, the wasteland that never plays the same twice. Rust drops you on a barren coastline, wearing nothing but a pair of fraying underwear and clutching a single rock. In that first hour, you're cracking trees for wood, chasing boars for scraps of cloth, and praying the sun sets before another fresh spawn notices you. But the moment you craft a bow or upgrade your shed to sheet metal, the game tilts into a social thriller where every footstep outside your base sounds suspiciously like a raiding party. Replayability in Rust thrives on that shifting tension. Official servers wipe their maps on a schedule, erasing every fortress and loot cache, forcing the entire population back to square one. Strategies that dominated last month, like honeycombed bunker bases or roof camping with bolt actions, crumble when new blueprints enter the meta or the wipe timer starts ticking. Because gear matters as much as diplomacy, each wipe spawns a fresh political landscape. One week you might stumble into an impromptu ceasefire village, complete with storefronts and community farms. The next, you'll find the same valley, ruled by a clan that demands sulfur tribute before sunrise or levels everything with rocket launchers. Alliances form at gunpoint, break over a misplaced landmine, and reform 3 hours later when a larger enemy appears on the horizon. Even solo players can flip the script by lurking in the shadows, playing scavenger until they score an explosive satchel that tips a clan war.
Building feeds that loop. The construction system lets you blueprint anything from a compact 2x2 starter hut to a labyrinth of shotgun traps, auto turrets, and roof peak ports. Every structure teaches new lessons about weak spots and upgrade priorities, lessons you'll carry into the next wipe,
right up until Facepunch patches in a new building material or raid tool that rewrites the rules again. Modded servers twist things further with custom loot tables, faster gather rates, or no decay weekends, so two servers running the same map seed can feel like separate games. Community-driven events keep the wasteland unpredictable. One night, a DJ booth with flashing neon might turn an abandoned supermarket into a rave. The next, dozens of players could be lining up for makeshift boxing matches or racing scrap helicopters around the map. Content updates drop fresh monuments, weapons, and quality-of-life tweaks with clockwork regularity, nudging the player base into experimenting with new tactics and routes. The genius of Rust is how quickly mastery evaporates. You learn to farm sulfur efficiently, then a balance patch nerfs your favorite node spawn. You perfect door-layered defenses, then raiders adopt explosive ammo that punches straight through. Each reset invites you to rebuild knowledge as much as bases, trading old tricks for new gambits in a world where the only constant is that rock you spawn with, and the paranoia that someone wants to smash it against your skull.
Number 5. Sons of the Forest. The island that learns your every move. Your first breath on the crash-scarred beach feels almost peaceful, until a painted cannibal creeps from the tree line, tilts its head and sprints. That encounter is never identical twice, because the island's inhabitants run on a dynamic AI system that remembers the weapons you favor, the routes you patrol, and even how aggressively you defend your camp. Hunt their scouts too often, and the next raid comes at night. Torches doused, attackers crawling through the undergrowth instead of rushing the main gate. Leave their effigies undisturbed, and they might treat you as a passing threat, stalking at a distance rather than charging. The result is a cat-and-mouse rhythm that reshapes itself every time you think you have the upper hand. Seasons add another layer of unpredictability. Spring floods caves you once farmed for resin. Summer crowds creeks with fish but also mosquito swarms. Autumn rains soak your arrows, and winter blankets the forest in snow that dampens footfalls. Yours and the cannibals. Resources relocate with the weather, forcing new supply chains. Kelp beds freeze over, berry bushes wilt, and meat spoils faster in humid heat. Each fresh save seeds these changes on a different calendar. So the moment you settle into a routine, the environment shifts the goalposts. Replayability spikes again when you invite friends. Cooperative lobbies support up to 8 survivors, and every additional player bends the story in unexpected directions. One teammate might obsess over stone wall fortifications, while another tunnels straight into the cave network for 3D printed gear. Because enemies scale to group size and behavior, a 4-person squad triggers larger patrols, or multi-wave sieges that solo runs rarely face. Miscommunication, like triggering a dynamite blast that flattens half the tree line, becomes the stuff of campfire legends and inevitable rematches. The island hides multiple narrative threads and endings, but it lets you chase them or ignore them in any order. Puzzle-locked labs reward thorough explorers with lore and late-game tech, yet you can postpone the main plot indefinitely to blueprint cliffside bases, experiment with zipline networks, or herd Virginia into wielding twin shotguns for perimeter defense. Community challenges, speedrunning every golden mask location, building sky bridges across the map, pacifist runs that forbid killing mutants, turn each restart into a new self-imposed rule set. End Night keeps layering updates onto the sandbox. New mutant archetypes that burrow under walls, weather effects like lightning strikes that ignite wooden towers, and AI companion tweaks that make Kelvin smarter about gathering logs, or reviving downed players. Modders have piled on with custom tools that randomize crash sites, overhaul lighting for true dark nights, and introduce hardcore hunger settings. Taken together, these evolving systems ensure that the island you crash land on next week will feel eerily familiar, yet fundamentally different from the one that claimed your last 30-hour save. Sons of the Forest doesn't merely ask you to survive, it dares you to outsmart a world that's always studying how you play, and then play again to see if you can stay one step ahead. Number 6. Day Z. Apocalypse. Written by strangers. You spawn on a windswept shoreline with a splitting headache, a glow stick and a piece of fruit already going bad. The ruined fishing village behind you looks deserted, but the distant crack of a rifle says otherwise. From that first breath, DayZ turns survival into live-action storytelling, because every human you meet can rewrite your fate on the spot. Sometimes the stranger in a motorcycle helmet shoves a can of beans into your hands
and jogs away. Other times, he zip-ties your wrists, steals your shoes, and leaves you to limp barefoot through broken glass. That volatility is the heart of DayZ's replayability. No script survives contact with another player's whims. The map itself pushes you to move and adapt. Cherno's city blocks offer weapons and medical supplies, yet each main street funnels gunfire. Inland forests hide water pumps, orchards, and ruined cabins. But they're also prime ambush. Server persistence means bases and tents stay put, even when you log fire of ruined backpacks. Lose everything and the game doesn't end. It simply hands you a glow stick and dares you to start another narrative from scratch. Biology keeps the tension simmering. Break a leg and you're stuck fashioning a splint while undead shamble closer. Eat undercooked chicken, and the ensuing food poisoning forces you to weigh hydration against the risk of exposing your position at a well. These systems interact with weather that soaks clothing, winds that drive body temperature below hypothermia, and diseases that pass between players in close quarters. Because the item economy is loot-tiered and region-locked, top gear spawns far north, basic gear near the coast. Every life becomes a migration story that unfolds differently, depending on who or what crosses your path. Bohemia keeps refreshing the sandbox with weapons, vehicles, and dynamic events like helicopter crashes that shower rare loot over random clearings. Meanwhile, community modders run wild with PvE servers full of roaming bandits, hardcore PvP shards that turn darkness into ink-black terror, and roleplay hubs where trust can hinge on a single emote. Even vanilla servers differ radically. One wipes spaces monthly, another never resets, letting the landscape accumulate years of player history in rusting car hulks and half-collapsed washtowers. Permadeath seals the loop. The moment your screen fades to black, you're back on the beach, heartbeat racing, already planning a brand new route inland. Will you sprint north for assault rifles, or linger on the coast trading apples for pistol rounds? The answer changes every session, because the cast changes every session, and they're writing their own survival arcs right alongside yours. DayZ doesn't just invite replay, it thrives on it, turning each respawn into another unscripted chapter of the apocalypse. Choose your poison. Replay forever 6 wildly different frontiers. 6 bottomless rabbit holes. Sons of the Forest watches you, learns you, and punishes every predictable habit. Rust shreds alliances, wipes worlds, and turns paranoia into a full-time job. Green Hell tests your anatomy textbook against a jungle that actively hates you. Don't Starve Together warps the rules with every new character and every new mod. Valheim reshuffles biomes, bosses, and building blueprints until One More Seed becomes an all-night saga. Whichever realm you dive into first, the real achievement will be pulling yourself back out. So tell me in the comments which world is stealing your weekend. Drop any survival stories worth bragging about, and hit like if this list pointed you toward your next obsession. Smash that subscribe button and ring the bell so you're the first to know when the next digital wilderness is ready to consume us all. Until then, keep your campfire lit and your respawn timer short, because the replay loop never ends.